Want to start off by congratulating our women's soccer team. Awesome for coaching the team. The good win over Tennessee to advance. Coach Roby and the wrestling team beating up on Missouri, a top 10 group. Awesome. Congratulations to those guys. Well deserved. We had a good bye week. Got some guys a little bit healthier. Did some recruiting. Got some young guys some work. It was needed, and I think we got the most out of it. So obviously a good opponent in Duke at night at their place, senior night. Got a good football team, well coached, playing sound, quarterbacks playing good, defense playing good, garnering takeaways. They've got some, a couple of good wins under their belt, and they've lost a couple of close ones. But we'll have our hands full over there, but our guys are looking forward to it. I'll take some questions.
You mentioned being able to get rested up last week. How do you feel this week about Drones, Tootin, Malachi Thomas?
Yeah, I think the week was good, obviously. All of them got to really back off and get extra treatment and do everything we could. They're all questionable. Again, I know I say that, but we'll have to go out there and see how things go, the next 2 days. None of them are to a point right now where I can stand here and say they're going to play. But I'm hopeful.
And you and Manny Diaz sort of have a similar background, going through Penn State with James Franklin. Have you ever crossed paths with him in the coaching career? And what do you think of the job he's done so far at Duke?
Yeah, we've never coached together, but we've got similar associates in the business that, and there's similarities to the style of defense and some schematics of things. I think the transition to Penn State made a lot of sense for James Franklin and for Manny with what we were running and how we were doing it. See a lot of it, in this Duke group. But excellent coach, a lot of experience, obviously experience at Miami as a head coach. And, he's doing a nice job. I know several members of his staff, good coaches, good people. I'm not surprised to see them doing well.
Brent, you mentioned on Wednesday that Sunday's practice was going to be key for this week, especially for the guys who are coming off injury. How do you assess how they looked on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, there was progress. I think, Steve ran around pretty good. The other guys, still kind of halfway with the trainers, halfway with us. But I thought Gosnell looked pretty good.
You got a lot of young players reps. How much have you elevated some of those guys to the varsity field to get them ready for this stretch if they're needed?
Yeah, we've, I think Keelan Adams jumps out. He's a guy that the last several weeks has gotten a lot of work on the varsity field in practice. And, he's moved up the depth chart. And with the redshirt rule, he obviously has an opportunity to play if we need him to.
When you look at this Duke front, what stands out to you? Their defense, their defensive line.
Yeah, very sound. These guys play hard. I don't think there's a lot of bad steps or bad leverage. I think they're well coached. They got some depth, which helps. So they're a little bit like us. I don't know that. They've garnered takeaways. They've done well in the red zone at times. I don't know that their run defense is where they want it to be. But their pass defense is very strong. It's a good group, and I think it starts up front. And those guys, they roll pretty good with a healthy rotation. They've got experience, a couple of transfers, and some of them we're familiar with.
Obviously, this is kind of a homecoming game for Aeneas, going back to the place he was at. How excited are you for the opportunity for him? And obviously, he's playing really good football for you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited. He's a lot of his friends had moved on and graduated, but I'm sure there's folks in that program that he's close to. Maybe it's trainers and equipment managers and some guys on the team and a couple of coaches that were holdovers. But he's a great young man. And he's, I'm sure, going to handle this with class, and he's got a ton of respect for his time there. He's got good memories. It was a healthy experience for him, and I think he'd feel the same way about his time here.
Brent, you mentioned Stephen Gosnell earlier. For someone who 11 months removed from the injury he suffered in the Military Bowl to be leading the team in receiving yards, what can you say about his road back and being as productive as he has been?
Yeah, first of all, I'm very proud of him. Secondly, I'm not surprised. He's got a unique way of going about things, and the determination coming out of that bowl game. Once he said, I'm going to do this, I mean, it was 110 miles an hour to get healthy. He did everything you could possibly do that I've been around to get well and to speed up the rehab process. And then what he brings to the field, the ability to line up at a lot of different places, do a lot of different things. I think he's tough after the catch. He fights and scrapes for yards. Intelligent receiver. So I'm excited about the year he's had. We need him to finish strong, to be healthy, to help us down the stretch here. He's a really good story within our program right now.
David asked you about Duke's front, but overall as a defense, they're one of the best in the nation at creating turnovers and also limiting explosive plays. I believe they lead the ACC in fewest yards per play allowed at less than 5. What's going to be key against this defense to, one, maintain possession and be able to sustain some drives?
Yeah, I think you said it. We've got to protect the ball. We can't be careless with it. They're opportunistic. And then secondly, we've got to create some explosives. They may bend a little bit, but they don't break. I mean, they really make you earn it, and that's what good defenses do. They do a nice job with that. They've got a nice mix of pressures to create some minus yardage things, and I think their offense complements their defense.
What are some of the challenges of that offense? And they seem to have a pretty good quarterback, and it seems kind of RPO heavy that they run.
Yeah, they're RPO. They take shots down the field. They convert a fair number of those. Got good wideouts that play well. Efficient routes, good ball skills. I think that the quarterback, when he's in rhythm, he's one of the better ones I've seen this year. Just kind of snap, catch, throw, and a lot of slants and quick meshes, and then he'll one-step it and take it downtown. Good screen package, I think that helps neutralize some pressure, but he's playing well. And the supporting cast, particularly the wideouts, a solid tight end, got some backs that can do some things. They get in empty a bunch, bunch in the boundary and some quad sets. They use tempo. They make you defend a lot. They're a pretty well-rounded group.
We don't normally talk about special teams, but they've got a kid who's blocked 2 kicks this year, and it looks like they're pretty solid in the return game as well. What stands out to you about their special teams unit, and what are you guys going to have to do in the kicking game to maybe shore some things up that you mentioned a couple weeks ago you hadn't liked?
Yeah, I think our field goal protection is improved. That was a concern there for a couple weeks. I think we've really put some emphasis there, invested extra time. Looked at personnel closely, made some adjustments. But, they got a dangerous returner. They're sound in what they do, very consistent across the board on teams. Punter, I think, maybe right behind Peter. He's right there close. So they're productive in that group. I mean, we've got to win the special teams battle. I think, against these good teams, that's got to swing our way. And whether it's a nice return, which, we got to get our return game going better than it has. We got to eliminate penalties, in those situations. And obviously, we found a way to block a couple kicks ourselves here recently, to try and garner explosive play that way.
Any Zoom questions for Coach Pry?
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask your question for Coach Pry. Please also state your name and outlet before your question. And we'll start with Mike, please.
Hey, Coach. Mike Barber for the Virginian Pilot. I had a question. In your, the back end of the season, how much time have you spent, either yourself or as a staff, kind of recruiting guys, touching base with guys on your current roster to make sure they're in the fold going forward?
Yeah, there's certainly plenty of conversations as a staff and several with members of our team, whether it's preliminary and a few that have gotten a little more in depth. That's the reality of where we are. We had a bye week, so we had a chance to dive into some of that. Some assistants took some guys to lunch and just have a conversation. Not anything that's got to have some pressure to it. Let's just be transparent about where things are, what you're thinking. Concerns, positives, like where are you at with things. We need to get as much information as we can to help us navigate this to, have us the best roster we can.
And what kind of work, or I don't know, communication can there be? Is there between you and the collective and those kind of things on that same front?
Yeah, obviously, right now with the landscape potentially changing or likely to change, there's been a lot of conversations with the administration, with Triumph, just about what this is going to look like moving forward and how does it need and how can it look for Virginia Tech to put our best foot forward.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We'll go to David next, please.
Brent, David Teal. David Cunningham was mentioning Duke's takeaways. They've recovered more fumbles than any team in the country. Is that luck? Is there an art to it?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I always attribute it to two things. If you're an active group up front or you're a pressure team that's, you're getting on their side of the line of scrimmage to where you can cause more opportunities. And then secondly, groups that run to the ball. Things happen around the ball. If you're around the ball and the ball comes out, you got a chance to recover it. If you're not taking good angles and reacting and driving when the ball declares, ball comes out, it's not going to be yours. Obviously, there's periphery things, you got to work on stripping and punching and doing those type of things throughout the week, throughout the season, throughout the off season to create those opportunities.
And then you mentioned the changing landscape to Mike. You had talked about earlier this season that you thought the preliminary plan was to go to 105 scholarships. Is that still in the works, or has Virginia Tech and maybe even the league at large revisited that number?
Yeah, I think everybody's still kind of making some decisions there. You can have up to 105 as long as things pass like they're supposed to on your roster. So there's a roster limitation. There's no scholarship limitation. It's a little bit of a give and take on figuring out what's best for us. There's not anything unified across the ACC right now. I'm hearing some of that in other leagues. So a lot of conversations with Whit Babcock and where we want to be and what's best for us.
Have you had to tell anyone on your current roster that there simply is not room for them next season?
I have not had to do that yet, but there's been conversations about the potential of that. There's been conversations about what it looks like in the spring and then post-spring. So there's a lot to navigate with it.
Any final questions for Coach Pry on Zoom? Okay, Travis.
All right, we'll go back to the room, Andy.
I know you guys are always very focused on the week ahead. Is there something to there being this open week late in the season as sort of a 2-week sprint to the finish here that you can reset things and kind of just go about that?
Yeah, we did talk about it that way, particularly in the bye week. We got 2-game season left. Once we hit Sunday, it was all about Duke and being 1-0, and you don't want them thinking about anything beyond that. But we certainly addressed that. Let's get healthy. Let's clean some things up. Let's be a better team down the stretch here. That was talked about quite a bit and to a degree an emphasis through the bye week.
Do you bring up the goal of getting to a bowl game at all? Is that just sort of understood?
Yeah, it's been mentioned. It's not been a focal point. Yeah, the kids understand that, but when you look at the big picture opportunity and you talk about it briefly in the bye week, that's included as part of the conversation. What's out there for us still? What can we accomplish? And that's certainly one of them.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
questions for Steve? Andy?
I guess we've talked about all the things that have been bothering you all season. How does a week off like that help you, where it looked like you didn't have too much to do during practice?
Yeah, it was tremendous. You know, you get time to reset, rest your body, get healed up, reflect. Reflect on the season and start thinking about what the rest of the season holds.
You're typically a guy who's in the training room all the time doing stuff. Was that a heavy week for you this last week?
It was a lot. I'm pretty much in there every day doing, prehab maintenance stuff. So yeah, I'm usually in there every day, so it was nothing new.
I know the coaches always kind of preach a 1-0 mindset and things. Was there something about the off week where you guys can kind of reset and look at this as like a 2-game sprint to the finish for the rest of the season here?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at it, when you're sitting around and not doing anything, you just look at it like, hey, we only got 2 regular season games left to play. You're only guaranteed 12, so it's really you got to take advantage of each one. You don't get too many.
We've asked you quite a bit about your road back from the knee injury, and I think you've played with some bruised ribs a bit. Where did you develop the mentality of playing through so many injuries and having that fighter's mentality?
I think that it goes back to growing up. I grew up with 8 brothers, and most of them were older. So if you ain't tough, you're just gonna get trampled on. So, and then at the end of the day, this game really doesn't care how you feel. You got to go out there. Once you put those pads on, nobody knows how you're feeling. So you got to execute.
Did you ever see yourself leading the team in receiving yards this late in the year?
I may have thought about it and visualized it, something like that.
But could you have pictured it better when you elected to come back? Could you have envisioned all the trials and tribulations you being at this spot?
Yeah, 100%. I knew exactly when it happened that I'd be back for the first game, and this is exactly how I expected the season to go for me.
I'm sorry, did you say you had 8 brothers?
I got 8 brothers. Yeah.
8 brothers. And where are you in the pecking order of age?
So I guess I'll give you a rundown if you don't know. I got 12 siblings, 4 sisters, 8 brothers. I'm the 11th child, so 13 in all.
So Benji's the last?
Benji is the second from last.
Second from
There's
last.
one younger.
Okay, and you said you've gotten a trampling before from older brother. What was the worst trampling you've had from older brothers in sports?
Yeah, so I guess when you go out in the backyard, you're playing tackle football with no pads on. So when you're 8 and one's 15, that's it right there.
Do you remember any particularly brutal hit that you took at some point?
Not really. I remember the Thanksgiving football games used to get a little rough. So yeah.
How do you guys split up teams on Thanksgiving football?
Yeah, you kind of just try to even it out, something like that.
Back of the room, Brooke.
Your first career reception was against Duke when you were a Tar Heel.
It was.
It
yeah,
was.
you're right.
Obviously, playing for UNC, you have this instilled hatred for Duke. You want to beat them. How much does that carry over as a Hokie now? And what have you, I guess, kind of grown in your game since that very first reception?
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina kid, you're either Duke or you're Carolina, and I grew up, not liking Duke. So, but at the end of the day, it's also just another football game. You got to go out there and execute. It's the next game you want to win. But yeah, to go back to your question, how I've grown since then, every aspect of my life, mentally, emotionally, physically, I've just been getting better and better every month.
Other questions for Steve? Dave?
Steven, when you look at this Duke defense on film, I mean, it looks like they're pretty good at taking the ball away. What stands out to you?
Yeah, that they play really hard. Like they communicate well. Everyone in the defense is playing hard. They do their job. Everyone's very technically sound, and they're looking to make plays. So I think that's what has contributed to their turnover. So you got to go out and match their energy.
They kind of asked you about just the open week. As a team, how much confidence do you guys kind of gain just by the ability to kind of reset and refocus a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's huge individually for each player, and that comes back to the whole team. So everybody, you get away from it, and then you kind of get that bug back to where it's like, hey, I want to go back and practice, have a good week, and you're itching to play. It's almost like when you start playing golf and you ain't played for a little bit, you got the bug. So that's how it is.
Do any of your older brothers play football?
They all play. Yeah, they all played high school football. Nobody played collegiately though.
So you were the first one to go play collegiately?
Football, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I talked to, I think, one of your older brothers last year who went to the military because of playing in the military. But I know you have some brothers who also own their own business. Have you thought about what life is like after college?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I think about it a lot. Pretty much probably every day for the last 4 years. I think everybody does. I want to continue playing this game for as long as I can.
Anything else for Steve? Andy?
I've got more questions about these Thanksgiving football games. When was the last time you guys played something like that? It sounds like everybody's kind of dispersed at this point.
Yeah, it was probably the last game we had that was probably my junior year of high school, something like that. Ever since then, everybody's getting older, and we can't do that anymore.
At that point, I mean, you're like a college prospect at that point. Are you starting to dominate that game? Is that why they're like, all right, we're going to call this off now? These guys are getting too good?
When you're about sophomore year of high school, that's when you kind of, you had to ease out of being too competitive in those games.
Was it the same teams every year? Or did you guys play for anything? Or was it like a Gosnell family trophy or something like that?
No, I don't think there was a trophy. I think we just did it for fun. Bragging rights. Yeah, bragging rights.
Anything else? Thanks, Steve.
He had one.
Sorry, Colby. Go back to Colby.
A guy we talked to Coach Pry about, Keelan Adams, climbing up the depth chart. What have you seen from him, especially last week? Some of the younger guys getting some reps.
He's not a very vocal guy. He's a quieter guy. He's a lot like I was when I first got to college. But you can tell, he's definitely going to be a great player as the years to come, and he's only progressed. So I think for him it's just getting to know the playbook and, making sure, no matter what's called, he knows what his job is.
Lastly, any takeaways from UFC 309?
John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time.
There it is.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Everybody, questions for Caleb? Start with Damien.
How'd you approach the second open week?
Yeah, it was good. We had some practice last week, and then we were able to go home for a few days. So it was a good reset for me, get my mind off some football things. I was with the family a little bit, got to see my little brother's game, so it was good.
Saw you and Sam were wearing the multicolored hats and doing the signals for the young players. Did you have fun with that?
Oh, yeah, that's always fun. We got the Hokie Stone scrimmage at the end of practice, so that was fun calling the plays for the young guys.
Does it put in perspective what some of these student assistants have to go through during games, doing signals and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. No, I know it's a lot of pressure on them, and they do a great job of it. They got to come up with new signals and stuff. And so I know it's a lot of stress on them, and they do a good job.
For a guy like yourself who's just sort of getting into a starting role, does an open week like that late allow you to just kind of step back and take a breath and look at things big picture at all?
It does for sure, able to, have some days off of practice, get my body right, get in that training room, just finish so I can finish the season out strong.
team-wise, what do the coaches say about these final 2 games? And it feels like it's sort of a sprint to the finish here for you guys.
Right, so the next game always the most important game. So we just focus on this next game, trying to make the most out of it. We only got 2 more guaranteed, bowl game hopefully. So that's what we got.
Caleb, what stands out to you about this Duke offense you guys are going to face? Coach said it sounds like a lot of RPO elements involved. How much assignment based, and what does that look like in your eyes, just the game plan going into Saturday?
Right. So what I've seen from Duke's offense is they do everything very well. Like they work together, the O-line works together, and they all do their job. So I feel like it's important. Just we got to do our job and be on point, and that starts this week.
Back of the room, bro.
Caleb, what did you feel like you guys needed to clean up after Clemson defensively?
I think we just need to be on point towards the second half. We start strong as a defense. I feel like we really just got to finish and close out them tough games and close games.
What does that kind of take?
I feel like mental focus. You got to just dig deep. If you're tired, you just got to get to that place where you haven't been before.
Anything else for Caleb? Andy?
You've played now 400-plus snaps this season. Is there a part of your game that feels a lot more comfortable now than it did at the beginning of the year?
For sure. I feel like every week it starts slowing down more and more for me. So I feel like, every opportunity I get in practice, I try to treat that like a game, and then the games it's easier for me now.
Is there more and more stuff that they open up for you, or did they kind of give you the whole thing when you go in? It's like do this, or do you get later in the season more advanced? They're like, all right, start adding this to your game as well.
Not really, but as I get more comfortable, I can kind of do different stuff and just be more free. I feel like just being able to know what everything that's going on with the offenses.
Other questions? Thanks, Caleb.
Thank you.